Rain made the street look like glass. Amina stepped out of the small white car she had rented for one day, her shoes sinking into a shallow puddle. She was tired after the long drive from another city. Her back ached, her throat was dry, and her nerves buzzed with the weight of a fresh beginning. She stood still for a moment, and looked at the narrow lane that would now be her home. Meadow Ridge. A quiet place people described as peaceful. A place where neighbors still greeted each other and shared food. A place where life slowed down. But something felt off. Amina reached for a box from the trunk. As soon as she lifted it, she sensed eyes on her. She looked around. Curtains moved. Not fully, only a small pull. Enough for someone to peek. Then disappear. A front door opened a little, then closed quickly. A shadow moved behind another window. The entire street seemed to hold its breath. Watching her. Measuring her. She balanced the box against her chest and walked toward the small yellow house she had rented. A stray cat crossed the sidewalk. The wind rustled through the trees. Other than that, no sound. No welcome. No help. A small ache started in her chest. She hoped this was not a mistake. She placed the box on the porch and returned for more. The second box slipped from her hands and thudded on the wet road. She sighed and looked up again. Everyone was still watching. She felt it. Finally, an old woman with a scarf on her head opened her gate and walked toward Amina. Her steps were slow, but her gaze was sharp. The woman stopped close enough that Amina could smell tea on her breath. "You are new here?" "Yes. I just arrived." The woman looked around as if making sure no one listened. "You should not live here alone." Amina offered a tired smile. "I will be all right." The woman pointed down the road toward a lonely gray house with broken paint and a silent yard. "Stay away from that house." Amina frowned. "Why?" "Ask anyone. They will tell you about him." "Who is he?" The woman shook her head. "You will learn." She stepped back and whispered, "Just be careful." She hurried away without another word. The wind grew colder. Amina stared at the gray house. A light flicked on inside for one moment. Then darkness. A chill climbed her spine. She did not know it yet. Her first day had already changed her life. By midnight, Amina had unpacked only a few things. She was too tired to do more. Her mattress lay on the floor near the window. The streetlight outside made a faint glow in the room. She tried to sleep. But the house settled with soft creaks. Shadows moved across the wall when the wind pushed the trees. She turned again and again. Then she heard it. Footsteps. Slow. Heavy. Measured. They were close to her window. Her heart thumped. She sat up and held her breath. The footsteps stopped. She went to the curtain and moved it just a little. A tall man stood under the streetlight near the gray house. Broad shoulders. Quiet posture. Face half hidden in the dim light. His hands were in his pockets. He did not sway like someone drunk. He did not look lost or angry. He looked calm. Too calm. He stayed there for a minute. Maybe more. Then stepped back into the darkness and entered the gray house. The door closed without a sound. Amina stayed awake for hours. The old woman's warning echoed in her mind. The next morning, Amina walked into her new school with a nervous smile. She taught young children and loved her work. She hoped this place would be her fresh start. But whispers followed her again. In the staff room, she introduced herself. Most people smiled, but their smiles felt rehearsed. Safe. Distant. Amina took a seat beside a young teacher named Rida. Rida seemed friendly and curious. "How was your first night?" Rida asked. "Quiet. Maybe too quiet." Amina hesitated, then added, "An old woman told me something strange." Rida leaned closer. "What did she say?" "She warned me about someone." Amina lowered her voice. "A man in a gray house." The room froze. A teacher who was pouring tea spilled some on the counter. Another made a soft choke sound. The principal, who had been talking to someone, turned to look at Amina. Rida's face changed. She told you about him that fast? Amina nodded. Who is he? Silence stretched. The principal cleared his throat. We do not talk about Daniel. Amina repeated softly. Daniel. The principal walked away without more explanation. Rida sighed. You will hear stories. But what is the truth? Rida lowered her eyes. Prison. The word felt heavy in the room. Amina waited for more, but no one spoke. For the rest of the day, people treated her with politeness but also something else. Pity. Worry. They thought she had already stepped into trouble. Amina walked home thinking about only one thing. The man under the streetlight. 3 days passed. Amina tried to ignore the gray house, but she always noticed it. One afternoon she saw the old widow from the corner house calling out for help. Her fence had collapsed after the rain, and she had no one to fix it. Before Amina could walk over, Daniel appeared. He carried 2 wooden planks on his shoulder. No expression. No words. He started working on the fence with calm and steady hands. The widow thanked him again and again. He nodded once, stepped back when she tried to give him water, and walked away without waiting for praise. Later that week, Amina saw him carry groceries for the old couple who lived next to him. He placed the bags near their door and left before they even opened it. Another time she saw him shovel snow for 3 homes, including hers, long before dawn. Every time he helped someone, he did it quietly. Every time someone saw him, they turned away. Amina felt something inside her shift. Maybe people feared the wrong things. One evening, Amina stayed late at school. She had paperwork to finish and decorations to prepare for a student event. The sky turned dark faster than she expected. When she finally drove home, the engine of her small car sputtered, jerked, and then died completely. Right in front of the gray house. Her throat tightened. She locked the doors and tried her phone. No signal. She waited in the cold with her fingers gripping the steering wheel. The streetlights flickered. Wind brushed across her skin. She felt watched. Then she heard footsteps. She froze. Daniel stepped into view. He stopped a few steps away. He did not come close. He did not reach for the door. He kept his distance as if he understood her fear. Car trouble? He asked. His voice was low and calm. Amina forced herself to answer. Yes. Pop the hood? She hesitated. Then she pressed the button. Daniel checked the engine while standing on the side, never leaning in too close, never making her feel cornered. Within minutes the car started again. He closed the hood and stepped back. You should not be out this late, he said. It did not sound like a threat. It sounded like worry. Before she could thank him, he walked away. For the first time, she felt confused. Was he dangerous? Or simply judged for something he no longer was? Amina found herself watching him more after that night. She saw how he avoided crowds. How he kept his head down. How he never stayed anywhere long enough for people to question him. But she also saw kindness. She saw him leave food at the town church. She saw him move a branch from the road so children riding bicycles would not fall. She saw him walk slowly behind an elderly man to make sure he crossed the street safely. The more she noticed, the more her curiosity grew. One evening, as Daniel sat on his porch staring at the empty street, Amina walked toward his gate. Her heart pounded. She knocked. Daniel opened the door slowly. Surprise flickered in his eyes. I wanted to say thank you, Amina said. You are welcome. Silence grew between them. You are not afraid of me? He asked. Amina found her voice. I do not know you. Daniel stepped back from the door. That is fair. He did not invite her in. She did not ask. But that small moment changed something in both of them. A quiet trust began to form. Days turned into weeks. Sometimes they met on the street and shared a short conversation. Sometimes they simply nodded at each other. Sometimes they talked longer. Daniel never forced any closeness. He kept a respectful distance. He seemed careful about every step, every word, every gesture. Late one evening, Amina found him sitting on her porch steps. Not close to the door. Just enough to be noticed. "You are late," he said. "I had extra work." He nodded, then spoke after a long pause. "People in this town have lived here their whole lives. They remember everything. They forget nothing." Amina sensed the truth coming. "I killed someone," he said. A hot wave ran through her body. His voice did not shake. But his eyes did. "I was young. Angry. Lost. Drinking to numb things I did not know how to face. One night, I drove when I should not have. I hit a man on the road." He swallowed hard. "He died before the ambulance reached him." Amina felt the weight of the world slow down. "I deserve prison," Daniel said softly. "I served 12 years. The silence between them felt like a wound. "When I came back, I changed," he said. "I learned how to live correctly. How to stay away from anything that could harm others. But to this town, I am still the same boy who killed a man." He looked at his hands. They trembled slightly. "I do not ask for forgiveness," he said. "Just space to breathe." Amina found herself whispering, "Thank you for telling me." Daniel looked at her with surprise. No one ever listened to his truth. Until now. Winter came slowly. One night, Amina stayed late again. She prepared lesson plans near the small school office. Only a few lights were on. The rest of the building lay in darkness. Around 8 in the evening, she smelled something sharp. Burning. A faint crackle. Smoke trickled through the vent. She stood up fast. Then she heard it. A sudden burst of flame in the hallway. The fire alarm failed to ring. Panic took over. The smoke grew thicker. She ran toward the nearest exit, but a fallen shelf blocked her path. Her eyes burned. Her chest tightened. She coughed hard as she tried to pull the shelf away, but it was too heavy. She stumbled back and dropped to her knees. Her vision blurred. She thought this was the end. Then a sound pierced the night. Glass shattering. A deep voice shouting her name. Strong arms pulled her up. Someone covered her mouth with a cloth and dragged her through the smoke. She fought for breath, clung to the stranger, felt the world spin. When they reached outside, she collapsed on the frozen ground. Her lungs screamed for air. Her eyes watered. Her throat burned. She looked up. Daniel lay beside her, struggling to breathe. His hands and forearms blistered from the heat. His jacket was burned on one side. People gathered around them. Parents. Teachers. Neighbors. Everyone stared at Daniel with wide eyes. The man they had feared had risked his life to save hers. Sirens grew louder as the fire trucks arrived. Paramedics lifted them both onto stretchers. Amina reached out and held Daniel's hand. He tried to pull away. She tightened her grip. He finally let her hold it. Daniel stayed in the hospital for days. His burns needed bandages and rest. His lungs needed treatment. The doctor said he would recover slowly. People from the town visited Amina, not Daniel. They brought flowers for her. Cards. Apologies disguised as polite words. They never stepped inside Daniel's room. But they whispered outside his door. Some whispered shame. Some whispered confusion. Some whispered regret. Amina sat beside Daniel every day. She read to him when he could not speak. She opened the window a little when he wanted fresh air. She listened when he finally talked again. One afternoon, Daniel looked at her and said, "Why did you stay?" Amina smiled softly. "Because I saw who you are now." He looked away, tears building in his eyes. When Daniel returned home weeks later, he walked slowly down the street. No one avoided him this time. For the first time in years, people looked at him without fear. But respect came late. Understanding came late. Change came late. Amina continued teaching. Daniel continued working simple jobs. Their paths crossed often. They spoke more. They laughed sometimes. They built a quiet friendship made of honesty and pain and healing. The gray house no longer seemed haunted. It felt human. One warm afternoon, Amina stood on her porch and watched children ride their bicycles down the road. The air smelled like flowers. Birds rested on the wires above. The street no longer felt tense. It felt alive. Daniel walked past with his toolbox, helping someone fix a broken light pole. Amina thought about everything she had witnessed: fear, judgment, mistakes, change, truth. People freeze someone in a single moment of their life and refuse to see who they become. People forget that the worst day in a person's life is not the full story. It is only a chapter. Amina whispered the lesson to herself. Never judge a person by who they were. Judge them by who they try to be. Meadow Ridge learned this lesson too, but only after nearly losing the one man they feared. And Amina never forgot that some hearts are rebuilt quietly, far from the eyes of those too blind to notice.